Ois Dalet. So the Rebbe continues in Ois Dalet to explain the difference between the two explanations that we gave why the miracles that are hinged in nature are even higher than the miracles that are beyond nature, that are above nature. So the Rebbe brought down two reasons before. And now the Rebbe explains. So to explain now the difference between these two explanations, what the advantage is in the nisim that are dressed in teva. Why are they, what's the advantage? Why are they greater than the nisim that are beyond teva? So we'll explain now the difference between the two explanations that the Rebbe said before is because the miracles in teva bring down the nace in the teva versus mevatel the teva. So the revelation is in the world, not overriding the world, and also that when we do the miracles that are in teva, is we see the Eibishter's powers not only in robbing the world from its nature, but also that nature itself goes according to Hashem. So what's the chiluk? So the Rebbe says, Yuvon b'hagdi mashakosu ba'akedah. Well, understanding by introducing that which is written in the Akedah, shegam me'anhogas hateva efshar leido gadlus haboyra. That also, from the conduct of nature, we can know the greatness of the Creator of Hashem. How do we see the greatness of Hashem from nature? The noise of lozeh, in addition to the fact, shal yidei ha'izbonenus b'anhogas habrios, when you reflect how creation is conducted, hiluch ha'mazolis v'chuluch, the way the constellation, their movements, so boyim lahakore, then you come to a recognition sheyesh bal habayis libirazu, that there is somebody in charge over this palace by reflecting on how things are working in the world. Besides that, hine al yidei ha'izbonenus bozeh, but when you reflect on the fact she'hanhogas hateva hitimidis b'li shinui, that the conduct of nature is a continuous, without any change. Ubeloshin hakosuf, to use the language of the pasuk, lo yishboisu, they never stop. So you reflect and you see, look, this nature keeps on going without change. It never stops. The hagam shezeh kvar korev l'sheisha lofim shono, even though it's almost 6,000 years, ba'afal pikein ein shum chalishus b'ha'anhoga hativis, and still there's no weakening in the natural conduct. So we see everything keeps on going continuously, never stops, never weakens. And likewise, the Rebbe adds in the bracket, v'chein mizeh shebemeshech kol hazman lo yinaseh chalishus b'koiches shel hanivroim, that during all of this time, there is no weakness in the strength and the powers of those that were created. The zeshet tzva hashamayim kayomim beish, the armies of the heavens, they are lasting in their place in the man, meaning the way they are. So we have the same sun, the same moon. Nothing changes over there. That's in the Tzva Shemayim. Tzva Haaretz, they don't last, people don't last, animals don't last, but Kayomim Bimin, but the species lasts. So whether it's the Tzva Shemayim that the entity itself lasts, or the Tzva Haaretz, which the kind, the species lasts, it's in a way that they're strong, just like in the day they're created. So through reflecting on this, this way we know the greatness of the Creator. So we know that the greatness of Hashem, that His blessed power from which the flow comes to the world is infinite to believe. Although the nature of the created being comes from the godly energy that dresses up in them, and the fact that each created being has a special nature, that is according to the way of its vitality. So that is a limited. The mizemuvon shachayis shemelubesh b'hanivroyim uchayis mugbal. So from this means that the vitality that dresses up in the created being is a limited chayis. Here we're saying that we know the koyach ein sof, that it's the infinite that it lasts. So how do we reconcile it with the knowledge of the nature of all the creations? This is as far as it relates to the teva itself. But the continuous, which is in the conduct of nature, that has no change, no weakness, that is in the power of the Ein Sof, that is Blikvul, that is higher than Hislapshus. Yes, the Chai is the nature, that's Hislapshus, that's Mugbal, but the fact that he's forever, that represents the Koyach Ein Sof Blikvul, which is higher than Hislapshus. Elo, it is in order to figure out, to know the greatness of the Creator through the conduct of nature, that's, you need reflection. Over there, you need to think about it, as opposed to when you see an open miracle. When we see a miracle which is a change of nature, then you see immediately, even without reflection, that this comes from the Ein Sof, which is not limited by the limitation of the world. So while the Blikvul also expresses itself in the nature because it's always, but over there we got to search for it, as opposed to by an S, it's obviously immediately when it goes beyond nature. And there's another advantage in Nisim over nature, the conduct of nature, besides the fact that it's very recognizable by a miracle versus the nugget versus the conduct of nature. The power of the Ein Sof B'li that is revealed through the continuous which is in the conduct of nature. So gam la'achrei ha'izbonenus, even after this reflection, the realization, umelubash be'inyan ha'gavul, it's still dressed up in the matter of gavul. Shanhogas ha'teva gavul. We're saying that the conduct of teva gavul ein lo shinu v'hefsek, has no change or interruption. So that's when we do the his bonus of teva, but by the hanisim do directly nimshach gilo in the sof habligvul atzmai. That brings the revelation of the Ein Sof bligvul by himself, shalemailo mi islapshus bigvul, which is higher than dressing up in the gvul. Elo. Sha'afa became, but still, because of this, for this reason itself, yeshmaila ba'agilu the koyach ha'Ein Sof. There's a maila in the revelation koyach ha'Ein Sof shemizgala yidei atmidis, that is revealed through the continuous sheban hogas hateva, that is in the conduct of nature. Legabe gilu ha'Ein Sof shal denisim, relative to the revelation of the Ein Sof that comes through miracles. The idea of bligvul as it's revealed through nisim shivu dud hateva de olam, that's robbing the nature of the world. And a shaykh la'olam, that does not connect, it doesn't belong, is not connected to the world. But vaidei hanho timidish v'anogus hateva, but through the consistency of Hatzogas HaTeva, Mizgala Shegam Chayis Ha'ilum Gevul, that reveals that also the vitality of the world, which is Gevul, the caution of Ein Sof HaBligvul, that is connected with the Ein Sof, which is the level of Bligvul. V'yesh levair zeh, so we can explain this based on what's explained in the Hemshech of Tofresh Samach Vav. The zeh sheban hogas hateva yesh inyan hatmidiyis. This that in hanhogas hateva there is the continuous hagam shehateva hu ma'achayis haliki shemelubash b'nivroim. Although the teva comes from the godly vitality which is dressed up in the created being. V'chayis hamelubash b'nivroim v'chayis mugbal, and the chayis dressed up in the created being is a limited chayis. Kinala said before, hu lefi sheshoyresh hachayis hamelubash b'nivroim. That is because the root of the vitalities which is dressed up in the nivroim, the shorish, the chayis nivroim, who loy meha kelim, is not from kelim k'imay rakav. That is from the light, from the oil of the cup. Sheshorshe, whose root to me'oid and sof, shall lifnehat tzimtzum, from the oid and sof, which is before the tzimtzum. They come from the oid rakav, which is rooted in the ein sof lifnehat tzimtzum. That's the root of the chayis, which is dressed up in the nivroim. As explained in many places, the shoyresh ha-kelim, the root of the kelim, hu mehatzimtzum atzmei. That is from the tzimtzum itself. B'shoydish hakav hu made in sof shalifnei hatzimtzum, but the root of the kav comes from the ein sof lifnei hatzimtzum. Elo shenimshach al yedei hatzimtzum, but it's gone through. It extends through the tzimtzum, but in itself is from the eira lifnei hatzimtzum. Which goes to Beitz Chaim, like it's written, Beitz Chaim she'achar hatzimtzum. Himshich min ein sof, that after the tzimtzum he extended from the Eidus of Kav Echad Yoshor, one straight line, min Eida Igul Shaloi, from the circular line of his light of his, from the Eid Makif Eid HaSevev, he gave a Kav Yoshor, came from it a Kav Yamamshich a Kav Yoshor. Hine Yedua. So the whole is known, the fact that the kav broke through the darkness of the tzimtzum. Anytime we talk about breaking through, that comes because of the strengthening because the root of the hamshoches is from the hidden tiferes shelamayla mehoir sheir begilui lifnei hatzimtzum, which is higher than the oir that was shining openly before the tzimtzum. So here you have a higher oir, the oir of tiferes, which is hidden. And that pushes and has the oir break through the tzimtzum. So basically we can explain this. Sheyesh maila v'hagilui the koyach ein sof. This that we have the advantage in the revelation, the parents of Shemizgala, through the continuation in the, that it's this continuous nature, conduct of nature, the gabe gilui ha'ein sof shal nisim, relative to the revelation, the insof that comes through miracles, who ki ha'er shalifnei hatzimtzum hu mugbal binyan habligvul, because the oir, as it is before the tzimtzum, is limited in the matter of bligvul. It's limited to infinite. And it's impossible for that revelation to come down into the gvul of the world. And therefore, the revelation of the Eir HaSever Shugilu Eir Shalifnei HaTzimtzum, which is the revelation of the Eir that is before the Tzimtzum, Shemimenu Shoydish Hanisim, from which the root of the miracles come from. It comes through robbing nature, taking away from nature. Bitl hateva gvul da'olam, that is negating nature, the limitation of the world. But v'oid hakav shemimenu hu hatmidis sheben hagos hateva, but the light from the kav from which the continuous nature conduct comes from, Kivon sheshorshehu miteferes hanelam, since it's rooted from the hidden tiferes, who koilulu mechaber shnei ha'ofchim, the bligvul, so it includes and it connects the two opposite of the bligvul and gvul. B'lachein gilui habligvul nitzchi es shem eira kav, and therefore the revelation of the bligvul, the nitzchi, is the eternity which is in the conduct of nature, shem eira hakav, that comes from the light of the kav, hugam b'gvul, it also is in gvul, in teva, also in nature. So through the level of the bligvul in the nature, that comes from the level of kav, which is not limited to bligvul, and therefore, and it comes from Tiferes Hanelam, and therefore he can combine bligvul and gvul. He can come down also in nature, also in tab. Hey, api hanal sivdalet, based on the above sivdalet, gam hatmidis sheben hogas hateva. That also the continuation, the continuous in the nature conduct, that is by bringing down, drawing down the Gilu Ein Sof Bligvul, which is higher than the world. He shall yodam nimshach hagelui, the Ein Sof Bligvul Atzmei, and the miracle, the advantage of Nisim, that through them comes the revelation of the bligvul itself, shalamaylo be slapshus bigvul, which is higher than dressing up in boundaries. So in Teva, we also have the bligvul, which is higher than Olmus, which gives us Timidius, but it only gives us a level of bligvul in the gvul, as opposed to the Maila that in Nisim over there, we get the Ein Sof Bligvul Atzma, which is higher than gvul. Yesh loymar, so we can say the Shnei Hasugim Sheben Nisim, the two categories of Nisim, Nisim Shalamayla Ma'ateva, V'Nisim Hamlubashim B'Teva, the Nisim that are higher than nature, and Nisim that address nature. These are the two ways in the revelation of the subligvul. Shalamailom is slapshus bigvul, which is higher than dressing up in the gvul. This that we explained earlier, that the advantage of the nisim which address in tava is shagilu the eid ein sof habligvul mislabish bagvul de'olam atzmei, that over there it dresses up in the gavul of the world itself, who's shebenisim. Yes, gamma inyan b'hamayle danogas hateva. That in Nisim there is also the idea and the advantage of teva, the conduct, the conduct of nature. B'hamayle din Nisim hamluboshim b'teva, and the advantage of the Nisim that they're dressed up in teva, b'inyan mailas and Nisim atzmei, that in the advantage of the Nisim itself, Gilu Ein Sof Abligul Shalomaylam is Lapshus. He over there consists of Behem is Gala. Over there is revealed that the Ein Sof Abligul Shalomaylam is Lapshus. This that the Ein Sof Abligul, which is higher than his Lapshus, Moishel V'Sheilet Al HaTeva, that dominates the rules of the Teva, who ba'ifun, it's in such a way that also the tava itself is done according to his will. The second explanation in the previous sif. So we're discussing here now that in the nisim that are mislabish b'teva, you have the two parts of it. You have the fact that this is beli gvul. This is higher than gvul, and yet it comes down in teva. So it's the advantage that the bli gvul can come down into gvul. That means that in the miracles we also have anhogas hateva. And what is the advantage of the fact that it's nisim in the mulbashim beteva, as far as the nisim atzmam, so that through the nes hamislabish beteva is revealed that the Ein Sof Habligvul dominates. Also, the teva should be kvirit soiner. The Rebbe before in Siv Gimel said two advantages in the nisim that are mislabish in teva. He explained earlier. First of all, that in teva the expression of the nes comes in olam itself. It's not shidud ha'olam like a miracle beyond teva, but it's in the world itself. That was one advantage. And the other advantage is that the bli gvul dominates, the Ein Sof bli gvul dominates and rules teva, that teva itself becomes according to the Ratzon Hashem. And these are the advantages, the two, as we separated, the advantage of the nisim hamalaboshim beteva in the gavul, that it can come expression in the gavul, and on the other part, that the nisim in mislabish beteva, that there is the nisim itself. So that's the advantage, that the teva in the nes and the galus of the nes itself, which is higher than islapshus, that it can dominate the nature itself. In a similar way, it's also with regards to the nisim that are above tava. This is the nisim which are in tava. The similar, we have these two inyonim by the negeya, the nisim shalamaylam tava. Shagam hamayla the nisim elu, ela. That also the advantage of these nisim, hisha nisim he begilui, that the nisim are open. See it right away. V'gam the zeh she'oyin sofa bli gvul moishel v'shoylet al hateva, that it dominates the teva mizgala yoser b'prat echad, that in one detail is revealed more b'anisim shalamaylam hateva, in the miracles that are beyond nature. The b'hanisim hamalaboshim beteva, because miracles that are dressed in teva shateva nishar b'mitzius, that the nature remains in existence. Hashlita the Ein Sof al hateva, the dominance of the Ein Sof hateva, hirak, it's only she'oifan anhogas hateva ukvirit soinei, that how is the conduct of teva goes according to the Ratzon Hashem. That's how the nisim hamluboshim beteva dominate teva. But nisim shalamaylim hateva, but in the nisim which come up from above nature, that are performed above nature, shateva misbatl mitziusa, in which the nature is negates and is no longer in his mitzius. Hashlita the Ein Sof, he bets a mitziusa. The Ein Sof ala teva, the way Ein Sof dominates teva, it's in essence of his mitzius. Is not only that the teva goes according to the rotzin of the Ein Sof, but the nature itself is misbattle in front of the Ein Sof. So we can say שהחילוק שבין סוגי הניסים בשורשם הוא. So what's the difference between the categories of Niskim and the root? The Nisim hal meluboshim beteva. The Nisim that are addressed in Teva who gilu oyin sof habli gvul k'moishe shayich v'neisin mokem l'gvul. That's the oyin sof habli gvul as it connects and it allows and it gives space for gvul. V'lochein. And therefore, the Gabi Gilu Oir Zeh, relative to that Oir, Yeshna Mitzias Hateva HaGavul, over there exists the nature, the entity of nature Gavul, Elosha Gavul, Hu Kifi Rotzen Eirin Sof HaBligvul, but the Gavul goes according to the will of the Eirin Sof HaBligvul. But ubahanisim shalemaila miateva. But when we talk about miracles which is higher than nature, who gilui oirin sof habligvul, that's the revelation of ein sof habligvul k'moshu lemaila mi'inyan hagvul, which is higher than the idea of gavul. It doesn't give an allowance for gavul; it's in a higher place. Lochein legabe gilui oir zeh, relative to the revelation of this light. Mizbatlu hateva mimtzius, nature negates from its existence. Similar to what explained elsewhere with regards to the idea of rotzen and seichel, and rotzen v'seichel hey moshul al eira seviv sheresh hanisim v'erem mal sheresh hateva. We say rotzen and seichel. The rotzen and seichel are an example for the Eira Seviv, which is the Sheresh HaNisim, and Eira Memala, which is Sheresh of Tava. The Zeh Sheharotzen Nimshach B'Hapoyel V'Seichel, Upoyel Lo Sheyeh Tam L'Rotzen. The Rotzen extends in the Seichel and it impacts him that should become a reason for the Rotzen, Hurak B'Ha'oras HaRotzen. That's only in the Ha'or of Rotzen. Avol Etzem HaRotzen Eine Nimshach B'Seichel. But the essence of the Rotzen does not come down in the Seichel. Only Ha'oras HaRotzen comes down Seichel, but not the Etzem HaRotzen. Is Ein Tam the Rotzen. There is no reason for the Rotzen. Which means that the Seviv Kol Almim comes down in the world. So if it's from Ha'oras HaRotzen, yeah, then it comes down into Gavul, as opposed to the Etzem HaRotzen, which is Soivev itself, a Bligvul, that doesn't allow for a Metzias. So over there, it's not mislabish in the world, but it's shaded. Elosh Alpha Pikein, Maila Gam, Benisim Alubashim Betava. But still, there is an advantage also in the Nisim that are drafts up in nature. Nisim Elu Davka, that it's Davka in these miracles, in Nisim that are Mislabish B'Tava, Mizgale, Hashlita Dein Sof, Al Oifen Hateva Atzmei. Is the dominance of Dein Sof on the way of nature itself. Davke in the Nisim Alaboshim B'Tava. V'yesh Leimar, we can say Shahachiluk Bein Shebein Shnei Hasugim de Nisim Hu. What's the difference between these two categories of Nisim? Is Al Derech Hachiluk Shebein Bitl Yichuda Dil Ilo or Bitl de Kabbalah Soil. The Bitl of Yichuda Ilo and the Bitl of accepting the yoke. The Zeh Shelegabe Gilu Eirin Sof Habligvul. Hateva misbatl mimtzius. Say the fact that relative to the Eirin Sof Habligvul, the Teva is misbatl mimtzius. Say that's nisim shalomaylo me hateva milgohayin teva derech habitl yichudei lo. That's similar to the level of yichudei lo, bitl mimtzius, non-existence. Habo ha'idei is bonus the kula kamei kilo choshiv. That comes to the reflection that everything for Hashem is like nothing. and the fact that Teva remains in its existence, still, the way it's conducted is not according to the laws and the characteristic of nature, but it goes like Hashem's will, which is Nisim Hamluboshim B'Teva, miracles addressed in Teva. So that is similar to the bitl of Kabbalah soil. That although it remains in its mitzias, he wants an eved, wants hefker, wants ownerless, doesn't want any restrictions, but and he actually conducts himself not like he wants, but like the way the master wants. And that means that the teva remains b'mitziosei, but in fact, the Hanhoga is the way the Eberster wants, the way the master wants. That is the Shadish of the Nisim that is mislabish in Tava. In Oisbov, the Rebbe continues to explain that these two levels of Bittel, whether the world experiences a miracle which takes away from the nature of the world, or the miracle comes down into the world, in the nature of the world, can be compared to the two levels of bittul of Yehuda Ilah and Kabbalah soil. Whereas Yehuda Ilah takes through the whole entity of the person. Kabbalah's oil, the person still wants to do what he wants to do, but he accepts it. What the Eberster wants, similar, the bittul of the world, because of the nisim that are not melubash in teva, is that the bittul is a full bittul. So the person's mitzias is this battle, but the bittul that takes place through the bittul coming down, melubash betava, melubash in the world, that means that the person stays, the world stays as it is, but it's being led by the bligvul. Vina yadua, behold, it's known, shahamayla bahabitl the Yehuda Ilah. What is the advantage in the bittul when it's Yehuda Ilah, the higher level of bittul? Shahabitl hu bechol mitzi usay. That then the bittul is in all of his mitzias, his entire entity is bittul. Shaloi nishar etzloi uboy inyan she'enei bittul. Nothing is left over there. No aspect is left by him, and which is not bittul. He's fully bittul. With loy can bittul the Kabbalah soil, unlike the bittul of Kabbalah soil, shehabittul over there, the bitl is only as it relates to action, bepoil, in his actuality, not in his emotion and in his place, but in his action. But what's the advantage in the bitl of Kabbalah soil? That's in the subjugation itself. Shehu bitl amiti she'ene kosher mitziusa shel ha'adam. It's an essence bitl. It's a true bitl, which isn't tied to the mitzias, to the being of the person. Explains shabitl Yehuda Ilah, the bitl of Yehuda Ilah, kivon shahabitl hu. Who alidei shemakir umargish, that he recognizes and he feels shekula kameki lechashiv, that everything before Hashem is like nothing. So then the bittul is tied to the entity of the person. The recognition. It's not a true bittul. But bittul, the Kabbalah's oil, the bittul of accepting the yoke, Shemakalim Olav, Shemakabal Olav L'kaim Tzivu Hashem, that he accepts to do the command of Hashem, Gam Kshatzivu Keneged Ritzoni, even when the command is against his will. Bedugmas Evet Shu Muchrach L'kaim Rotzon Oven Ha'odim, similar to a slave that is forced, he has to fulfill the wishes, the wills of his master. So what's the idea of that bittul is not to consider his own mitzvahs what he wants. That's considered a true bittul. So the level of bittul that comes mitzad yichudei law, that's all encompassing. But the level of bittul itself, Yehuda Ilah still recognizes his mitzias, whereas the Kabbalah soil is mevatel his mitzias because he doesn't care what he wants, but he does what the other wants. That's a true bittul. We can say that similar is with the nisim that are dressed in nature. Although the teva that is subjugated to the Ein Sof and the miracles that are in teva, it's only in the way that teva's conduct, but not in the actual essence of teva. Teva remains teva. It's just that teva is continuous, so there is a ein sof mikol mokem kivon shemitzad chukei utchunas hateva ein mokem shahanhoga de hateva tiye b'ofen shel nes. But since because of the laws and character of nature, there is no room that the conduct of teva should be in a way of nes continuously. Vashinu hanes shenase banogas hateva, and how does the change that becomes in the nogas hateva? Umipnei she'oin sof shoylet al hateva. That is because the Eibishter, the Ein Sof, dominates teva. Umanigas hateva kirtzoyne, and he leads teva as he wishes. So then the bittul of nature, which is in these miracles that are miracles in they're dressed in nature, a true level of bittul. So while it's only in hanhogas hateva, but teva remains, but the bittul that hanhogas hateva can dominate the teva is in a way of total bittul because it resists it and still it's mevatel it, similar to the bittul of Kabbalah's oil that after befker nichale and still it is bottled. Oizayim. So now the Rebbe will explain that what's going to happen that even those miracles that are dressed in teva, the miracle itself will be able to recognize that they are miracles because the teva will no longer obscure them from the level of miracles. Based on this, we can say that the novelty of Aránu Niflois, which is going to be in the future, that even those miracles that are dressed in nature, they will be in such a way. I'm going to show the Niflois, they're going to start seeing the nes. niflois atzmom. It's not only that they will be seen in their impact in the world, but the nisim themselves, the niflois themselves, will become visible. Right now, nature obscures the miracle which stresses up in it, who the reason is lifi because nature, even when a miracle comes down into it, is opposite of a miracle. It's nature. Okay, now he said hey, Shashinui Hanes Shenase Behateva, that the change of the miracle that is made in nature, is opposite of the laws and the character of Teva. And for that reason, Hanisim Shalamayla Mahateva Heim Begilu Yosef, the miracles that are beyond Teva are more revealed, because the Teva is not obscure. They take away Teva. The Shinui that is in Teva is opposite the Chukei. That's why it's hidden. And the Nisim that are higher than Teva are open, more Begilui. But the fact that in Los Love also those miracles addressed in nature will be there in the flois, that they will see the miracle of Teva, because nature will have an elevation. That also Teva will become a vessel, a vehicle for the revelation of the Ein Sof HaBli that will dress up in the Teva. Also the miracles that in Teva will be open. This is that the novelty of Aran and influence that's going to be in the future. Is first of all seeing them. Also the gam vaniflois atzmam, and also the miracles themselves. There is a chiddush in those miracles. The hanisim hamuluboshim beteva achshov, the miracles which are dressed now, heim ba'oifen, in such a way shagam legachrei hagilui, the Ein Sof HaBli Gvul shemizgale b'hanes, after the revelation of the Ein Sof HaBli Gvul, which reveals in the Nes Nishar Mitzias Teva. There still remains the Mitzias of Teva shemitzadin yonei for Teva itself uheipach gilu HaBli Gvul, which is opposite of the gilu of HaBli Gvul. Elo sha'gilu the HaBli Gvul sheiled olav. It is only that the revelation of the Eir dominates him, so that the actual conduct should be according to the wishes of the Eir HaBligvul. But the nisim that will be in Teva lost lovei tiyena shtei hamaylas. They'll have both milas. Shagilu the Ein Sof HaBli Gvul yiba Teva. That the Ein Sof HaBli will be in Teva. But v'sheloi tiyem etzias she'hepech gilu the HaBli Gvul. But there's not going to be an entity which is going to be the opposite of the revelation of the Gvul. Kivon shegam haTeva yiklil Ein Sof HaBli Gvul, because also Teva will be a vessel for the Ein Sof HaBli Gvul. We can tie this to that which is known. We say that in the future to come, the soul will actually nurture and receive its nurturing from the body. Presently, now the body is nurturing from the soul. But in the future, the soul will be nurtured from the body. Although then too there will be a physical body, it's still going to be nurtured from godliness. Gashmi won't need no food and drink physical. And even more than that, not only will the goof take directly from spirituality, from godliness, and won't need physical, but more than this, that the goof will be even on a higher level than the neshama. Why is that? The idea is the bitl haguf lalakus, the subjugation of body to godliness, magia lemailo, yoser mibitl haneshama, that reaches a higher level than the subjugation of the neshama. The subjugation of the guf is higher than the subjugation of the neshama to godliness. This that the soul is batal kosmikivan shiruchni, since it's spiritual. Habitl shalom koshuni mitziusa, that bitl is tied to its mitzius. But when through work you impact, this should be the subjugation in the physical body. That bitl is not because of the entity of the body, but because of the godliness, and not because of the guf, not the mitzias of the person. But now the bitl shom is bitl mitzias, bitl guf, bitl yesh is only bitl yesh. But in the future to come, we beat both milas. That is because the lukus. Now, because it comes from a lukus, the bitl of the goof is not considered to be a complete bitl. It's bitl yesh. But in the future, the goof will have both milas. That the bitl will be mitzad the lukus, and the bitl will penetrate, take through, and it's going to encompass his whole existence. And that's why the soul will nurture from the body. So the Rebbe says, we can say, this is also one of the explanations that the revelations for the future to come hinge on our actions and on our work. Bisman hagolus davke, specifically in the golus davke, as we talked about, that the true level of bittul is davke by the guf. That is because of the likus. That's also the reason why all of the revelations of the Osilovai hinge on our actions and our doing in the time of golus davke. Because the true idea level of bittul is mainly in the avodah, which is the time of golus. The bittul shahoya bisman habayis, that in the bittul that was in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, kivon shahoya oz hasogas elokus. The bittul that they had in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, there was a time when they were grasping godliness. And when they went up for the Yom Tov, they also were able to visualize godliness. So then it was felt the entity, the metzias of the person who grasped his soul. That was in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, it wasn't the true bittul, because there was a sense of the person, the metzias of the person who understands and sees. Bisman hagolus, But in time of exile, especially in the generation of the hills of Mashiach, the Kabbalah Soil, the Avodah is with the bittul of accepting the yoke. The Kabbalah Soil, Huloi mitzad mitzius shel ha'odom elo mitzad halakus. The bittul of the Kabbalah Soil, that's not because from the mitzias of the person, it's his understanding. Well, that's because of the godliness. Because the person himself, in himself, remains in this place, but his bottle, because Milmaila, he's like Makabal, it's like the master forcing him, the Kabbalah Soil. This is what is explained in the Amorim of our Rebbe's, our leaders, in the meaning of the Pasuk. The man Moshe was very humble, more than all people that are on the face of the earth. Why was he so humble from all people? It mainly was humbled that was because of the generation of the hills of Mashiach. Stadium in which all the blockages and all the obstacles and the obscurity have increased, because, and yet they stand with a very strong, powerful stand. They learn Torah, mitzvahs, and they observe mitzvahs b'mesiras nefesh, with self-sacrifice. And therefore, the Loshen HaMaimer, as the Maimer says, the Moshe Rabbeinu was on of Me'od from these people. Is Moshe Rabbeinu Bazicharab gefallen. He sort of felt bad, fell down by himself. Shabitul the Moshe v'nachnu mo hu abitul yichudei lo. The bittul of Moshe v'nachnu mo. What are we? Meaning, he also stood in the level of bittul, but his bittul was a bittul of yichudei lo. But the avodah in the generation of the Hill Mashiach, he bittul, the Kabbalah Solam Mesiras Nefesh, is the bittul of accepting the yoke of Mesiras Nefesh. So when Moshe Rabbeinu's bittul came because of Yichudei Lo, and he saw the avodah of the Mashiach, which was the bittul of Kabbalah Mesiras Nefesh, Ubitl b'mitzias, that's negation of their mitzias, because it's not because of their hasoga, it's because of their lakus, because of the bitl, subjugation of themselves. Is by zicharov gefallen, so he fell by himself, felt down. Mipnei habitl the Kabbalah Shalom Mesiras Nefesh, seeing the bitl of accepting the yoke Mesiras Nefesh. And this is why the revelation of the future to come, they hinge on our work and our service that is in the time of the Golus Davke. Because the main novelty, why do we have the Maseinu of the Seinu Davke? This accomplishes Losid Lovay, because what will happen, Losid Lovay, the Chidush in the Giluim, the Losid Lovay, what will be the novelty? So, then will be revealed the advantage that the light of the Bligvul will extend into the nature, into the physical body. That's what's going to happen in the Osid Lovi, that the Gashmis, the Teva, the Gufa Gashmis is going to become and appreciate and reveal the Erabligul. Shabitul Shalahem Ulay Mitzad Mitziusam, their bittul of Teva and the Gufa Gashmi is not because of their Mitzias, of their being, of their grasping, but because of godliness. So Gilu said, therefore that Gilu, how they bittul the Kabbalah Selum Misiras Nefesh Bisman HaGolus. This revelation is through the bittul and Kabbalah Selum Misiras Nefesh during the time of Golus. Yud. Hine av shehanisim shohoyu b'mitzias Mitzrayim hoylu ma'ilum hatav. The miracles that were in the Mitzias Mitzrayim, they were above nature. The idea of showing you the miracles, which is the dressing up of the Nisim in Teva. V'sha'af al pikein areinu niflois hanisim begilui nisam begilui yirak begula hasida. This is going to be only in the Geula Hasida, in the redemption to come. Yet, based on what is known, that the opening of the pipeline for all redemptions, Gam the Geula Hasida, also from the first of the future redemption, it all started with the redemption of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yesh Leima, we can say, Shagam b'Yitzias Mitzrayim hoya inyan Aránu neflois. Even then, by the exodus of Mitzrayim, there was this concept of Aránu neflois. It was there, but this concept of Aránu neflois, that the miracles will also comes down in the niflois, in the nisim beteva, also Aránu, that was then behela. But in the future, when Mashiach comes, that will be open. This is what it means, that the way days you go to Mitzrayim and Niflois. Shakos of medame haniflois sheyir begu'ulo ha'asido la niflois shohoyu b'tzias Mitzrayim. That the pasuk compares the miracles that were in the future redemption to the niflois that were in Yitzias Mitzrayim, because then too, by Yitzias Mitzrayim was already the beginning of Aránu niflois. Even though that the miracle niflois that is in the future redemption, will be just from Hashem alone. As the Rebbe brought down from the Medrash, not through the Beis Din, Kanisim Mitzrayim, like the miracles that were Mitzias Mitzrayim, that they went through the Beis Din, but the Geula Hasid will be Levadei. So still, we are saying that K'mei Tzeicha Meretz Mitzrayim, K'mei Mitzrayim Nimtoch Hatziner, because that is when the pipeline opened up. V'hoyos behelem gam haniflois the losid lovei. Then there was also in a hidden, in an obscure way, also the niflois of the future to come. The Torah specifically emphasizes like the days in a plural, that you went out of Mitzrayim. Kimei loshon rabim, Kimei in a plural. Shabazeh nichol gam hanes de Kriyas Yamsuf, which in this includes the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf. Shahoya b'yom hashvi, the Yitzias Mitzrayim, which took place on the 7th day of the Exodus of Egypt. Kinal Siv Beis, that is earlier Siv Beis. That these are the two levels of Yitzias Mitzrayim. They lahadish, in order to emphasize shebekriyas Yamsuf niftachat siner. That is to emphasize that when this sea was split, the pipeline was opened, and it includes hidden also the splitting of the sea that's going to be in the future. It all started. That was the tziner, the beginning. When the Hashem will also be drying out the tongue of the Egyptian yam, meaning they also become the like a kriyas yamsu. The Seder is more than this. Also this splitting of the river, which will be in the future. If He'll raise his hand over the river and he'll smite it into 7 different rivers. Dagam shen bikiyas hanor hu lamaylam bikiyas hayam. So here too, splitting of the river is a higher level than the bikiyas hayam, which was by Yamsuf. The bikiyas hayam hu chibur atzilus ubya. Splitting the sea connects atzilus b'yitzir asira. Ubikiyas hanor, but splitting the river hu chibur oilum es atzilus. That is splitting the river, is getting Atzilus Abiyah together with the Ein Sof that's higher than Atzilus. In the splitting of the sea that took place in Tzis Mitzrayim, it includes also Behelam, the splitting of the sea of the future. Begam b'kiyas hanor, the lost love, and also the splitting of the river of lost love. So behelim, it's included in that kriyas yamsu. So we can say shahakeshem, the shnei ha'inyonim, the connection between these two ideas, Aránu and Neflאות. Shebaneflאות sheyiyeh be'geula ha'asida, that in the Neflאות, in the future redemption, Gam Hapele, the Bikiyas Hayam or Bikiyas Hanor. It'll have both the Bikiyas Hayam and the Bikiyas Hanor. Kimei Loshon Rabim. Shanisim Hamuluboshim Beteva Yiyu Ba'ifun Aránu. So that on one hand, here we're saying Aránu Neflאות, it'll be both the Neflאות that was by the Bikiyas Hayam and the Bikiyas Hanor, because that was included Behelim, and also that the Nisim L'bosh B'teva will be Aránu, who Kizeh Shel Osid Lovei HaTeva Loyalim Ala Nisim HaMluboshim Boy. The fact that in the future the Teva will not obscure, block the Nisim that are dressed in it is Lefishos Yiyeh Hachibur the Ein Sof HaBlikbul Imagvul the Teva Olam, because it will be the connection, it will be a split between the Nachal will be split, so there will be a connection between the Ein Sof HaBlikbul Imagvul the Teva Olam with the limitation of Teva Olam. The Chibur Zeh who are the Bikiyas Hayam or Bikiyas Hanor, that comes through splitting of the sea, splitting of the river. The pasuk says, "Zeh shel osid lova yiyah eno niflois." It'll be showing you niflois, b'negei l'shnei yonim anal, in both levels, that there will be the chibur of the blikvul with the gvul, and the teva will not be mailim on the blikvul. It all started by Tzeitzcha Meretz Mitzrayim. Shebesichas Hatzinmer al Zeh, the opening of the pipeline for this, Hoysor B'Yitzias Mitzrayim, was in the Exodus of Egypt. Oishid Aleph. Yeshloimar, we can say the Zeh Shakos of Meisif. The fact, what the pasuk adds, La'achar Sha'emer V'Heinif Yodal Anor V'Gomer. After the pasuk says he will raise his hand over the river and split it, it says V'Hidrich Bana Olim, and he will lead with the shoes. Hu Kemoi Shene Olim Kipshuta. What it means here, just like shoes, literally. Asuim Ergas, they're made out of a thick skin. Ubichdei Shahoy Ragas Yeroy Lasis Mimenu now. In order for this thick skin, that it should be fit to make of it a shoe. Levush l'ragle ha'odom, a garment for the feet of the person. Is by softening the skin, the leather of its hardness. The skin by itself, before you soften it, kosher vegas, because it's hard and it's thick. So you can't bend it. Specifically, only after softening it from its hardness, that is only when you're able to tilt it, now to make it a shape of a shoe. Al derech zehu beruchnius similarly is spiritually. The inyan v'hidrich ban olim hu. What is the idea that he will leave with the naolim hu shadoyrech al teva gufay v'nafsha baham is that he's stepping on the nature of his body and his animal soul. By stepping, that way he softens them from their hardness. It should not be as hard as a cedar, but soft like a stick. That's why avodah comes from the language to work, is ibud oidus, to work through the leather and soften them. Because the main idea of the avodah is that the person wages war. That the person wages war. B'tivoi im tivoi, with his nature. As explained in Tanya in the idea of Avdalikim. They said that it's a person who does beyond his nature and works and fights his nature. That way becomes a refinement. Not only in the nature of the person, but also in the nature of the world in general. That's why it's not just the person, but he's an Ovid Elikim. He works through the Elikim, the Teva, the nature. That it becomes working through and a correction in general in nature, which extends from the name of Elikim. So if yoda ala nor gamer v'hidrich ban olim. This is say ve'hein yoda an or hidrich ban olim. Zeh shel osid lova yia chibur teva olam im erin sof habligbul shel l'mayla ba'olamis. That in the future to come, we're saying that there will be a connection tying the nature of the world with the erin sof bligbul. That's the splitting. Yoda ala nor shel l'mayla shachon elozeh, the preparation for that ibikiyas anor. Why they have avodah with that kabbalah soil? That's through the avodah in a way of kabbalah soil. That he forces himself against his nature. We also explain what it says in the Zohar that enu niflois loshin ister koel Moshe. It says that enu goes on Moshe. Kagula the Yitzias Mitzrayim hoisal de Moshe. The redemption of Mitzrayim was through Moshe. Based on the above that in the Geula of Mitzrayim, the pipeline was open. Gamal Gula Hasid, also Gamal Gula Hasida, also from the future redemption. So it turns out Moshe Posach Esatziner Dahaniflois Sheyiyu Begula Hasida. That Moshe opened up the pipeline of the wonders that is going to be in the future redemption, because it all started then. It's all included in them. The tziner was open then. But still, it was by him in a hidden way. It was obscure. It wasn't open. So, Kime Mitzrayim, Aránu Niflois. In the future, is Galu Loy Haniflois. The future to come will be revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Niflos Shapasach B'Yitzias Mitzrayim, that he opened up by Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's that and Niflos, because he started it all, and then he's going to be able to see it. Gam Yesh Loimar. Also, we can say the Zeh Aránu Niflos. Loshe Nister Koyal Moshe goes on Moshe. V'ro L'Kol Echad V'Echad MiYisrael. This is a lesson for each and every one of the Yiddish. They lost in love in order to merit to see the neflois in the future to come. That's revealing the Moshe that's in him, in the person. That is the level of bitl yichudei lo shemitzad hagiluyim that comes from the giluyim. And this that we bring down in the future, lost in that and influence, why that bit like Kabbalah soil canal test, like we said earlier, test. In order for this Hamshacha to be open, should be Aránu, tzarich liyas gam habitl shemitzad hagiluyim, also the bitl mitzad hagiluyim also. Not only the bitl of Kabbalah soil, but also the bitl mitzad hagiluyim. Al yidei ha'izbanus, by reflection, shekula kameke lechoshev ukadema, that everything can, and similar also that reflection. That way it'll be Aránu niflois. Shaniflois yiu begilui. The niflois will be openly. Bebias Mashiach Tzidkenu, Bekorav Mamesh, with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu very soon.